and welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Elaine.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
Whoop whoop.
And I am actually hearing correctly now. We bought the right cord. Although I did buy it and it came in the 1 foot instead of the 4 foot.
Oh, no.
And I
I
ordered
didn't remember that part.
Yeah, so I still need to return it. It's in my car. But yeah, I can actually hear.
Yay!
So we're getting it together. It only took since April to realize something was off, but yeah. So we are actually recording kid-free completely.
It's gonna be one of the cats now.
I know. It was. Freaking Calvin doesn't know what to do with himself. He's literally running around just making noise, like meowing.
What a turd.
I know. Although that
Poor baby.
was really cute when he came with the crumpled up paper.
Oh.
Or the paper, and he just wanted to play fetch. So, yeah. One of our cats, I think he's the youngest. No, Frankie's younger. Yeah, he is the sweetest and lets Lily do whatever she wants with him. So it's like she'll drag him around the house and just like, I love you so much. And it's like, oh my gosh, be a little more gentle.
This is my Calvin.
Yeah. And so he's just doesn't know what to do with himself. Now that he's not getting like aggressive
24/7.
Aggressive love. So yeah, but it's been quiet around here, but I've been working nonstop getting
It's a different kind of cleaning though when you don't have kids messing up everything right behind you.
Yes.
So it's like a zone. You're like, no.
Yeah, I was trying to, take it easy because it was just, me and Jack all weekend.
Yeah.
And because my parents took the kids, so we could get a little bit of a break. And
And you cleaned the whole time.
and I cleaned.
Typical.
I know. Yeah, and our dishwasher broke. And so I had to hand wash like 2 days worth of dishes because we were trying to fix it. And we had to take everything out.
I'm looking at you like, oh, yeah, hand wash dishes
Well,
for
there's
2 days.
way more of us than there are of you.
Not
There's
right now.
double the amount.
Were you
that
still
was
washing the...
Yeah,
Ew.
because the dishwasher broke. Like, it was full.
That sucks. Is the
And
part coming
so-
soon?
It shipped today, so hopefully soon. It was like a hose. And we went around, but it's like a special hose because stupid Samsung.
Everything for appliances is quote unquote like a special order product.
Yeah.
A vegetable bin in the refrigerator is like $75.
Yeah, I know. And this stupid
Like,
hose,
I'll put a little Rubbermaid tote in my fridge. Thank
this
you.
stupid hose is probably like 3 feet long. It's like not even a drain hose that you could just get at Home Depot or Ace Hardware where we went. It's this itty bitty little like 4 foot long, 4 foot long. No, it's like probably 2 or 3 feet. I don't know my feet. Holding up my hands.
I was like, that's like 8 inches.
Well, it's small, and it's a special hose that you can't just get anywhere. So we had to order it, and it was $50, and so it should be here sometime this week. So we, just didn't have the kids, so we just did all the dishes by hand and took turns. Like, you wash, I dry. I wash, you dry. And so it was. We got. What was it? Yeah, Saturday was when my parents picked up the kids. And Saturday we got our new fridge delivered, but it doesn't fit through the doorway into our kitchen, so we had to take all the doors off. It was kind of a fiasco, but got the new fridge in.
And our house, because these houses are really old, they are not made for these big ass appliances. The doors are tiny.
Yeah.
Like, you can barely fit like our size furniture in now.
Yeah, I know. That was like
These little 50s houses.
when we had to move that fridge out to your garage, and it was like, is it gonna fit through that door? Because it's just the doors are so small.
And that was like a basic fridge.
Yeah. And we could have fit it without taking off the doors through the back laundry room area, because that kitchen, that laundry room area was an add-on.
Oh yeah. So it
And
has
so
a
it
bigger
has
door.
a bigger doorway into the kitchen.
Yeah,
but
seriously, we're not kidding. The doors in this house, they're like...
they're 30 inches. Yeah, because that's what we had to fit the fridge through, and
That
it
sucks.
squeezed in.
Yeah. They're so
And-
narrow.
Yeah. And so we could have
just
fit it.
said 30
I keep my hands up. That's
like-
30 inches.
Sorry.
Shut up.
You're so cute.
I'm
It's like
just-
30 inches.
Be quiet. I'm just holding up like as if I was measuring, but not accurately. That's why I use a tape measure. But yeah, it's like 30 inches. And so the fridge, taking the doors off, it was barely
It's so
30 inches. But yeah, I'm so happy. So new fridge, and
fun.
then the dishwasher breaks. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We have this year we have had to replace our washer, our dryer, our refrigerator, and our dishwasher. Well, we're not replacing the dishwasher. We got that one for free.
Yeah, but a replacement part.
But a replacement part, yeah. So it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, what is next? Because our deep freezer, I thought, broke, but it just one of the kids unplugged it. Mm-hmm. And I saw a TikTok of someone who was like showing her deep freezer, and it was like a ton of food, and she was like, now I get to throw all this out because my kid decided to unplug the deep freezer to plug in an electric pencil sharpener. And I was like, oh my gosh, that happens all the time with the back in the laundry room. The kids, to sharpen their pencil, they'll unplug the plug that charges the vacuum.
Oh no!
And works the because it's like an extension cord and the microwave. So then I go to turn on the microwave, and I'm like, what? Or I go to vacuum and it's dead. I'm like, and then I look over and the stupid pencil sharpener's plugged in. So, it's just always something.
Kids are so rude.
I know.
Put it back.
Seriously, it's like, just put the pencil sharpener back and plug it back in. Because now my vacuum's dead. So.
And all our food's rotten in some cases.
Yeah. I know we used to have the fridge plugged in right there. And thankfully we don't.
That's right.
Now it's all hidden. We moved it by the washer dryer. But we have, two fridges. We have the drink fridge, which is like a small basic. It's what you have in your garage. Yeah. It's like a garage fridge. But we also have a fridge in the garage.
Yeah.
We have an actual beer fridge in the garage. Yeah. But yeah, so we've just been surviving.
Mm-hmm. It's hot as shit still.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna be 98 today.
It was,
and we're in October.
So that
as
meant
we're recording.
It was Friday.
It was
Friday, Saturday were both 99, and then yesterday was like 97 or 98, and then today's going to be the same. We get one glorious like 77 degrees on Thursday.
Soup day. It's like I'm like in fall season, so I want
I know I have my fall candles out, and I'm like, I don't
your pumpkin beverage dispenser.
Yes,
oh my God, pretty.
So cute. Even Kurt was like, oh my God, it's so cute. What are you gonna put in it? And I was like, everything.
Yeah. You could literally just put it in your fridge and fill it up with water. Just be all fancy.
Yeah,
it's exactly. Pretty. So
it does take up a lot of room.
It does. It's like the size of a pumpkin. So because it is a pumpkin like shape.
I was thinking I would make like green or orange. Like, I could do like sorry guys. Like an orange creamsicle float punch or something for our little Halloween party for the kids. Yeah.
I just have to be careful with that with my kids because of the dye. If anything, we've been trying to cut back.
I bet you we could find something.
We've been cutting out dyes, which dyes are bad for you, but I definitely notice a difference in my youngest son and daughter. They both, they get crazy. I mean, they're already crazy, but they are worse if
like
they
super
get
processed sugars and
if they
colors.
get into something that has dye in it, it's like, what happened? And there was that one morning that it was on a weekend. It was like Saturday or Sunday, and Lincoln was just bouncing off the walls, literally like jumping. You know how he does his flips on the couch. We've got like a big sectional, and he'll flip and do somersaults on the couch. And I'm like, what did he eat? And Jack was like, I just gave him some oatmeal this morning. And I'm like, what is in this oatmeal? And I went and looked. There's red dye in it. It was like the strawberries and cream Walmart brand, and it literally had red dye in it. And I'm like, why are you putting dye in oatmeal?
Because they're like tinting the little strawberry chunks to be prettier, because when you dry them, they're like mauve. Yeah, I know it's trying to be nice. Mauve brown. Yeah. That's why I love Aldi though. Sponsor us, Aldi's. But it's because like, I get it. It's not like the prettiest, but it's still really cute. No, like their Fruit Loops and whatever, and they have like carrot and plum coloring and stuff. And
it's like you can use beetroot, turmeric.
And they're cute. It's colorful and they're still really pretty, and they taste exactly the same. Yeah, it's just they're not like neon toxic blue. Yeah, that Lenore went through this section of time when she was little that she had so much Fruit Loops that her pee was like turquoise. Oh my god! At one point, and because she was eating them like every morning, I was like, okay, never mind. I was like, that's too much. Or like if you eat grocery store birthday cake that has black frosting.
Oh, what? Ew.
It's turquoise.
Yeah. I'll take the freak out when you eat beets any day over
Kurt has talked about that too.
When you forget you eat beets and you're like, oh my gosh.
One of him and his friends had like a smoothie juice that was like really heavy in beets, and I guess it was like 1 and 2 is red.
Yeah, it's like if you forget, it's a little scary, and you're like, oh my gosh, everything's red.
So crazy.
Like, oh yeah, I ate beets because I make that really good the roasted vegetables that have the carrots and the pearl onions, beets, carrots, like all the root vegetables, and then you do the sage butter over it, and it's so good. But yeah, it's like the beets you forget, and then your hands are all red. And I do love beets though.
You could
pickled
like
beets
dab it on your lip. Oh, Kurt loves pickled beets, and he loves pickled eggs that are in beet juice, which is weird because like he doesn't like eggs, but he'll eat that. Yeah, he likes those.
You should try doing that with
quail eggs. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you tiny quail eggs?
Tiny little pink eggs.
Yeah. That'd be cute.
Fairy eggs.
Yeah. I know they are so tiny, but
really
we talked
cute.
about birds, just not chickens. It was my quails. I did go out there today and I had to yesterday I had to replace tubing for the rabbits' water, and because Troy's not here, so that's usually what he does. It literally takes like 5 minutes. You go out and fill up the feeders, fill up the water, and like done for all the animals. And the quail, I have one quail. I'll have to show it to you. It's so fluffy, like a frizzle, but it's a quail, and it's not like anything special, but it literally all its feathers are like frizzly.
It has that mutation, which means it's baby. You should like separate it to get like just those eggs, because I mean everything I've seen for collecting fertile eggs, it's like they have up to like, because we're not shipping them, that gently on the counter, as long as they're not messed with, it's like 7 days. Obviously the longer you wait, but 7 to 10 days you could get 7 or 8 eggs and then hatch out little frizzle babies.
I have too many quail right now.
Someone will buy them.
I know. So anyways, I guess we should move on.
That made too much noise, sorry.
Just messing with the microphone
with my chin.
Okay.
All 3 of them. I'm just kidding. I only have 2. Okay, let's hear your craft.
Well, last night I had a lot because my face, man, that was like...
Oh, you were...
I don't know what happened. I had an allergic reaction to something, but it was just on my face, and it was so swollen and red and tingly and stingy, and I sent you the picture, and you're like, you're so swollen. I'm like, I know. It was really bad. But I'm better now. I'm better now. My face just feels funny. I tell you, it was cheap chemicals. I threw that out. Some floor cleaner. Fabuloso. I hate it. So, anyways, on to the craft. I had a really hard week, as you know. My brain just, that day did not work for me. Everybody has those days where just my brain did not work.
Yeah.
And I got like writer's block and creative block, and I just was back and forth. So I had all these tabs open, as I usually do. And I finally was like, I'm going to do something fun. And something that everyone can do. Tie-dye.
Yay!
So this is a short one. It's actually going to be a short one. So tie-dye is made, as everyone knows, by just dyeing fabric, but you tie it into different, ways, and you put dye on it, and then you wash it. And anyway, so it's like you twist, fold, pleat, you can bunch up, whatever, to make a pattern. You tie it up with like rope or string or, rubber bands typically. So if you get a tie-dye kit, it's just, with rubber bands.
Yeah.
And then you can do different colors and different parts. We did a tie-dye party with some friends, and it was pretty cool. We had extra dye left over, so I actually tie-dyed some bed sheets for Lincoln.
Cute.
And a pillowcase, and so that was fun. But yeah, Lincoln did one with like reds and yellows, and he called it his lava shirt. And
they remind me of those slushy popsicles, those cherry pineapple slush. I love those things.
Yeah, so he did his lava shirt, and so
Cute.
It's really fun. But you can actually get like pretty creative with the designs, and so there are like other steps that you could do that I didn't know to like enhance the tie-dye designs. So you can like stitch or stencil, which I'm like, let's just dye, I guess.
How does it not like bleed out?
I think you just use a small amount. So that was
crazy.
Something new.
That's cool.
So some popular tie-dye designs, I'm sure everyone has like one in their head. You can think of the spiral,
you could do it with a fork.
Yeah. Yeah, Mandela, and of course the peace sign. So these were very popular in the US in the 60s and 70s. Like, picture every hippie wearing a tie-dyed shirt. And so a lot of tie-dyed products were like mass produced.
Yeah.
And for, wholesale distribution. And then in the 21st century, tie-dye was more of a fashion statement and used as like art form. You express yourself through your tie-dye. And I remember having tie-dye parties like in the 90s, and I can remember some of my tie-dye shirts. Like,
I think I did one with Girl Scouts.
Yeah, I probably did too. I think we did probably a sleepover or something where we did tie-dye. I know but I had a lot of tie-dye in the 90s.
Fun.
So some of the most popular dyes are like household dyes like RIT. Yeah, here in the US we have RIT to help like dye your clothes. Like if you have black clothes, you can buy black RIT dye, and
because when they're fading.
Yeah, when your black shirts fade, and you can color them. Or if you have a bunch of white shirts and you want like to make them into a different color, you know. I have used RIT dye when I had that large sectional, the one that was like too big for my living room.
Yes, the down one.
Yes, the down one where we get poked by the
feathers.
Feathers. Gosh, that was so annoying. But
they're pokey.
Yeah, and me and my mom had bought canvas like drop cloths and sewed up the couch covers because they were falling apart.
Yeah,
we used RIT dye to dye them like a denim color because the base of it was like, well, it was all faded because it was from like the 80s. But it was like a lighter denim, and so we used it to make a denim color. But yeah, that was just RIT dye. And if you have an upright like a top loading old school like washing machine that fills up with water, you could do it in there. That's typically what people do.
How does it not stain? That's so weird.
I don't know. You just do a wash cycle afterwards. But I've done it on the stove in like my big canning pot and just really cleaned it afterwards for Jack's black shirts and stuff to, But yeah, so RIT dye is a very common dye, and you can use that for tie-dye. Now, as we know, we have some tie-dye kits. You just go on Amazon and buy a little tie-dye kit, and it comes with like different colors. You could do like primary colors or pastels.
It's like a powder in the bottom of, and you just measure the water into the line.
Yes, so
easy peasy.
We get the little bottles, and it has the powder already in it with the color cap on top, and then you just fill it with water, shake it up, and you're done. And
fun. You
tie up, and it shows you like usually in the tie-dye kit the little designs you can do and how to do it. So my kids, like I said, did shirts and pillowcases. Shirts I think are most commonly done for tie-dye. People have a tie-dye shirt, but you could do big wall tapestries, like all kinds of stuff. So as we said, all you need is dye that's appropriate for the type of fabric you're dyeing. So like typically most kits recommend cotton, a cotton t-shirt, cotton, whatever. So this is the most popular type to try to, tie-dye. And because it's the fibers in the cotton fibers hold onto the dye really well. But if you have stuff with synthetics or silks, like that's not really going to hold the dye the same. So yeah, if you have some old shirts or even pillowcases, that's a fun thing. Get a tie-dye pillowcase.
If it's stained, tie-dye it.
Yeah, tie-dye it. That's what I did. I took one of Lincoln's. No, that I bought new shirts for that. Oh, I'm thinking of when I used my Cricut to make Troy's Vote for Pedro shirt. So anyway, so tie-dye is really simple. So of course we have to go into the history of tie-dye. And the earliest forms of tie-dye were found in the Far East, and they were from the Sui dynasty in the 5th century in China. And the ones that actually survived were from Peru in the pre-Columbian era, dating to 500 to 810 AD. Yeah, 810 AD. It's so weird when I say these dates because it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it does. And it's weird because I looked at that before because it's the earliest to latest. So it's backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Because it's more time. Mm-hmm. It's dumb.
I know.
It's rude.
I don't like dates. So these tie-dye designs were small circles and lines, and the colors were really bright red, yellow, blue, and green.
We talked about dyes.
I know. See, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
In Japan, there is a form of tie-dye called shibori, and this has been practiced since the 8th century. And there are many techniques that are used that are very labor-intensive, and some of them include stitching patterns before dyeing. And a lot of these intricate designs were used for kimonos, obis, and other garments. I actually watched something where they were doing these pretty, I can't remember what they were called. They were some sort of garment, and they tie the string really tightly, really like in the fabric before it's woven. So like the strips of threads. Not fabric, but the strips of threads, and it's tied off so the dye doesn't go there. And then once it's all woven up, it makes the whole pattern. And so I'm picturing this is like they're doing the same thing. They're using probably something that's going to make sure that the dye doesn't get on this part and to create the pattern. And so I could totally picture like kimonos, you know, how they have beautiful patterns. So they, the shibori can also be completed by wrapping the fabric around rope, wood, or something else to create a design. So basically, like I said, tie-dye is just the patterns created where the dye doesn't go. Right. So the parts that are not exposed to the dye remain the color that they were originally, and typically that is white. Okay. So in Indonesia, Java in Indonesia,
you're okay.
The art of tie-dye is known as jumten. The technique for dyeing was combined with the technique known as batik jumputan.
That first word is really familiar.
It's like, so what they do is they use wax resin with the tie-dye, and the whole process, the whole product is dyed before it was woven. So like what I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's this pattern is then in what you weave in. So the tie-dye goes all across Asia in different forms, such as like in the Philippines and China, and there's different forms of tie-dye, but they're all similar across the world. In Africa, in the West region, in Hasua, indigo dye pits are found in this region, and in Kano, Nigeria. And these dyes were, it's so funny because you were talking about dyes and pigments, you know.
Yeah.
And so in this region, the tie-dye clothes are popular in hippie fashion, just like here. And they're produced in southwestern Nigeria. And this technique is known as a deer. And so I'm like, it's interesting. Tie-dye, as we know, came to the U.S. and was really popular in the 60s and 70s and even the 90s. But it actually came to the U.S. in 1909.
Fun.
And this came here because Professor Charles E. Pellow from Columbia University got some samples of tie-dyed muslin and then gave a lecture and live demonstration of the technique used to produce the pattern. So tie-dye didn't, as we know, become popular until the 60s, but it was here, before then. And it wasn't really popular until, as most things are, didn't become popular until rock stars like Janis Joplin, John Sebastian started wearing tie-dye, and then boom, it became really popular. Fun fact, John Sebastian did his own tie-dyeing. So these celebrities, brought it.
They were all high.
I know. Yeah. So then it was, boom, everyone started doing tie-dye. And awesome. Because of the access to dye, everybody could do it. It was super affordable. And so, you just fun. Get a kit. And so people were dyeing their fabrics, tie-dyeing.
They were dying to dye their fabrics.
Yeah. And another form of tie-dye that doesn't even tie, it's called ice dyeing. Have you seen this?
I have a little.
Yeah, I was going to do it. So basically all you do is you take your powdered dye and you sprinkle it or whatever on your fabric, I was going to do a baby blanket because I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I could do it. Like, it looks like space or whatever. And you just put your garment, whatever, like in this case, I'll say a blanket, and you put it in a like not Tupperware, like a Rubbermaid tote thing or whatever, to hold it. You can scrunch it up, twist it, whatever, just like you would do a tie-dye, but you're not tying it. And then you sprinkle the powder in the parts that you want.
Like what's from the bottle?
Yes. So, or just a box of RIT dye. You can buy like the powder, you sprinkle it where you want it.
That's funny. Then, that's the part I never watched them do. I've just seen the
final product. Yeah.
After the bit.
Yeah. And so then you just have all your powder where you want the dye to go, put ice over it, wait for the ice to melt, and then wash it as normal.
That's so cool.
And so it creates a different effect.
Yeah, just depending on how much water touches as it's dribbling.
So it's more of a soft effect. More
without
so
the harsh lines. It's going to be like a watery, ripply.
Yes.
Ooh,
so
fun.
I want to do that still. I'm like,
we should get more tie-dye kits.
I know. We should.
We could do tie-dye for Halloween.
Oh, yeah, we could.
We could do like orange and black would be gross, but the colors are going to do it anyway. If you do purple and orange, it'll do like a grody green. Zombie tie-dyes.
Yeah.
Like, because even the green and orange will turn like a weird, that like grody brownie. It'll look gross. It'll look all rotten.
Yeah.
We gonna do it.
So yeah, I just thought, tie-dye.
We'll try to do fall and it'll look like corpses. So we do like the red, green, and brown. It's all blah.
It'll look like poop.
Maybe.
Yeah. Someone had an accident. Okay. So that was it. That was tie-dye. Yep.
That was cool.
Like I said, it was just a little short. I felt like you tie it, you dye it, you tie it, you dye it. Because that's all I do.
But it's been around for a long time. I mean, like,
I didn't realize, but then I'm like, well, coloring fabrics and dyes and pigments have been around for a long time. So it's no wonder people are experimenting.
If you literally just take a garment and you think you're just going to dunk it in and leave it, it's going to make little pots, especially because natural dyes are not going to take super well. And then the mordant they use would have been pee.
Ew. Yeah.
And so, it's going to take differently. And so they would lift it up and it would be probably something. And they would correlate the two, like, well, it's squished together like a little accordion. And then it looked like that in between.
The fibers, I can't remember. It was like a dress or something that they were making. And this guy creates these patterns. And the knots around, they have all these bundles of the fibers that are going to be woven in. And they're just really tightly wrapping this string around all these fibers and then dyeing it in different, so basically tie-dyeing. They're tying it and then they're dyeing the different colors.
And then when it's woven, the woven makes the pattern.
Yes.
Like when you're working yarn and as you're working it, it works out the
pattern. Yes. Yes. Okay, so it's like these
self-patterning, but
these long strips that are identified by the pattern, and then they tie, different. It's really cool. I gotta find the video.
So it's like blocking out these little chunks, like they're doing like a grid.
Yeah,
and so they're measuring it by eye.
They're pulled out flat, and then the guy, they have the pattern, and he's like marking it where like it needs to go, and they're tying it up,
so cool,
dyeing it, and then it's all laid out after it's washed in these segments that are then taken and woven in that order. And to create the pattern. So it's like the extreme form of tie-dye.
Have you see what I thought you were explaining was the one that I've seen, a form of a pattern where they like do the little puff and then they wrap it.
Yeah.
And then they did something, because then they like bunch it up together so that those puffs are covered. It was too much.
Yeah, there's a guy that does these crazy designs on TikTok, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think there's somebody in one of the craft groups that I'm in on Facebook that seriously makes like a full big it's just like, what? How did that? I don't understand.
I don't get it.
I don't think I can.
I can barely do that spiral thing
with the fork.
I'm like,
yeah. Twist up your spaghetti.
Yeah. You stick your finger in the middle and you just like push the shirt to the side and then you wad it up, and it's never...
The funny part is like I've done like kind of a bleach tie-dye. Most people who like wreck their shirts do that. And so like I've done like the rib cage tie-dye thing, but it was not only it was like one part first and then it just a squish and a spray. So I'm like, it's not really the same thing, but I guess it sort of is. It's just a really lazy version.
Well, if it's bleach, it's the removal of color,
exactly, it's
not
opposite.
adding. Yeah, I had a denim jacket that, was all the acid wash or whatever, and you spray the bleach. And yeah, that's so funny. Not tie-dye, but
I had a denim like triple layer ruffle skirt that was acid washed. I get it. We all had it.
We were all there. Yeah. Okay. Well, you want to bring us on down?
Yeah. So even though I said I was going to stop, I can't. So
oh no, is it another Victorian?
Maybe.
That's okay. I like it.
It was crazy. I mean, like I was literally telling you this. I'm like, they're all crazy and shitty, but I'm like, this one was like, wow, and it kind of brings up like an interesting. I don't think it's super long, so maybe we'll be able to talk about it at the end. But it's like those hot topic conversations. Sorry, that was a ramble, but like it'll all come together.
That's kind of like me, where I'm like, it is kind of crime, but it's not crime.
Yeah, it's just like there's always something to it, and somehow we just get drawn to them. And you're like, I didn't really want to, but then I listened to it, and I was like, oh my god, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Robert Coombes was born January 6th in 1882, so like right at the tail end, in Bethnal Green in London, to his dad Robert Sr. and his mom Emily. And the year after he was born, they had another son named Nathaniel. And unfortunately, Robert's birth was really, really traumatic, and they didn't have a great, amazing meadow. They were getting up there, but they were still struggling, so he had to have a forceps birth. And the forceps birth actually crushed his side of his head in his temporal area by his ears, to the point where they were pretty sure that it had, their skulls are soft and it had smushed the skull because it left visible damage.
Yeah.
And by the time he got around 3 years old, he started getting crippling migraines. A little baby getting crippling migraines. And I mean, I know this is really rough, but the doctor was like, don't hit him in the head, because that's the snooze button. Like, you have to be really careful.
Yeah.
And a little bit like at 4 and 5 years old, he was ending up getting prescribed a sedative, actually, because the pain was so bad for him. And he was prescribed potassium bromide, which bromide is actually, nerd alert, bromide, I don't even have to Google it. It's like an extract of plants in the bromeliad family, like pineapple.
Oh.
And so that was given to him to help relax him, and it helped a little bit, but that wasn't much. His dad, Robert Sr., was a steward on a transatlantic steamer ship, and I believe it was called the France. And so he was gone for a really long time because, transatlantic, they're crossing the ocean. And so he's working on there. And so he's gone a lot. And when he was around, he wasn't a terrible dad. And, the family was liked and well respected. But Emily had the 2 boys on her plate. And so they kind of had to move around a lot so that Emily could have help back and forth between families and stuff like that. And pretty common, you need help. Your husband's gone a lot.
Yeah.
So they moved to Liverpool for a little while. And after just about a year or so, they wanted to move back to London. But Robert Sr. decided to stay behind. And it's not really like if there was a problem going on between him or Emily. I think it was probably work was closer from there, and he was gone all the time anyway. But he took care of them. He always sent money. He wasn't abandoning them. It was just work life,
Yeah.
So at this point, when they move, little Robert is only like 5-ish, 6-ish.
Okay.
And so his little brother Nathaniel is just the year behind him. And at this point, London is plagued by Jack the Ripper. And so this is like, people are scared. He's not close to that area, but the Whitechapel murders, people are scared. Everyone's talking about it. It's in the news. Everybody's talking about it. And little Robert is like into it. He's like, wow, this is crazy. And so he's reading everything he can. He's like almost bordering on obsession a little bit.
Okay.
But at the time, there were these little magazines out. They were called Penny Dreadfuls. And they were like a kind of an intro to comic books, but they were like morbid and macabre and dark, and people were dying and stuff. Yeah. And he loved them. So he's pretty little, but his parents didn't dissuade him from it because he's just reading. They're just stories. It was a common thing.
Probably just happy he's reading.
Probably, right? Because actually coming into our next little topic here, the thing is that Robert and Nathaniel both went to school, but they like ditched a lot. They didn't stay around. They were kind of like troublemakers. They would try to like scheme people out of money, quarters, and it wasn't quarters, but little bits of money and things. And But they said that the thing was that Robert was exceptional. Every one of these, they're really smart, did really well in school while he was there. But unfortunately, his studies were not his main priority.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times for kids, it wasn't back then.
Yeah.
And he quit school at only 11 years old. And he became he was kind of like a helper to a metal plater down in the, the dockyards.
Uh-huh.
And he did that for just a little bit. And Nathaniel was in and out of school, kind of, doing whatever his brother was going to do, impressionable. He was still really into his little dark and morbid Penny Dreadful books and clipping the newspapers and reading articles and stuff. And he actually, which to us were like, oh my God, you took the train alone? How far?
I know.
But he took a train to go watch the trial of the murderer James Canham Reed. And, again, it's not uncommon for children to ride the train alone, but it's just like he went out of his way to watch this murderer on trial. He was like, yes.
Yeah.
But so the boys are still considered troublemakers at this time, but they're not awful. They're just pains. You know? And at this point, Dad is in and out of the house, but again, it's just, he's got to work. And so he has to take these trips back and forth. And I'm sure he's working those entire trips. So he's probably able to come back in a week or two and then he goes back out again. Friday, July 6th, 1895, Robert Sr. had left for another one of his work trips. And he left enough money, which was more than enough, enough money behind for the family to be enough for the rent that was upcoming and, groceries and everything that Emily and the kids would need. And so what Robert is like, hey, there's money that got left behind. And so he takes a few pence, which is not that much. And he goes to the store and he buys himself a knife.
Okay.
And he hides it in the garbage can for a little while. And then he changes his mind and he takes it and he hides it in an unused chimney in the house. They actually had a nice house. They had a 4-bedroom house with like a sitting room and stuff. They were not, unfortunately, they weren't bad off. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so he was able to hide it in a different room. And he obviously had something in mind. Well, the very next day, the mom, Emily, she beat the ever-living crap out of Nathaniel. And he later had told Robert that he's only 12 at this point.
Okay.
They're 12 and 13. I'm sorry. He had told Robert that, I wish I could kill her, but I can't because it's mom and stuff.
What?
And so it's really odd because Robert shares a room with his mom. So I'm guessing it's probably like the mom and Robert have a room and because the dad's not there. I don't know. It's weird because they do have a big house.
I'm like, they have a big house. Why is he sleeping with mom?
I know, it's really strange. So it's actually just later that day. It was later that night, right after Nathaniel had told him that he wanted their mom dead. So it's later that evening. I'm sorry, early morning, 3:45 a.m. Robert takes a truncheon, which is like, which now I'm like, is that like the Trunchbull in Matilda? Did that where they get the name from? A truncheon is like a large, like think of like a billy club bat. So it's like a large, thick stick you use for protection.
Okay, yeah,
like a home protection because a lady's not gonna have a gun under her pillow and stuff. Yeah. So he takes the truncheon and he bashes her over the head with it.
Oh my gosh!
And he stabs her twice in the heart.
What?
And then he just takes the knife out, sets it down, and he goes and lays back down in bed and goes to sleep.
What?
I know.
That's not what I was expecting.
I know. So
he kills his mom?
Yes. Yeah, he killed his mom, and then he lays down. Yeah.
That is a psychopath.
So the very next morning, he tells Nathaniel what happened, and Nathaniel's like, no, you didn't. So they go into the room, and there she is still alive.
What?
Like, she's still kind of groaning, like she's still there. And they just look at her, and they cover up with a sheet, and they leave, and they lock the door.
What?
I know. They just leave her there. Immediately after that, Robert goes out, and he gets quicklime so that he can go back and cover up the smell. And in the bed, and luckily for them, luckily for them, there were like farm fields right by that had just got fertilized with manure, so there was already a pretty grody smell going around.
Oh,
most of those areas smelled bad anyway.
Yeah,
they had like not great plumbing at all.
Yeah.
And fish markets is gross.
Yeah.
It's going to take a bit. So he was like, this is going to be the easiest way because it's the summer. It's July.
Ew.
Even in Britain, it's still the summer.
Yeah.
So he took a gold sovereign, which was about what is the worth of a pound back then, a sterling pound. And that was actually a really decent amount of money. I looked it up. And that's one of the things I mentioned before. I have trouble trying to convert the money back then to what it's worth now because it's not the same. So the easiest way I could find, one gold sovereign was enough to buy like groceries for a whole week, pay for like a week at a nice hotel hostel type of situation. Okay. What they called several suits of clothes. So you could get like a couple full. It was a decent amount of money. It was the money left over, and part of it was for rent. And so Robert takes the money. He goes next door to the neighbor, and he has like the little it's like her receipt book for rent. Yeah. And he's like, hey, my mom had to go out of town. We had a great, her sister died and left us a whole bunch of money. She had to go deal with that. Can you help us pay the rent? So the neighbor takes the money, gets him change, pays the rent for him, and like fills out the little note slip so that they have it already. And the other thing they do in this amount of time, this is their little break. This is so crazy. I know, it's really, I told you. Yeah. They go to a cricket match. They take a train because I looked it up. It is 12.4 miles away. So think of how long it would take a normal person now to go 12.4 miles. You ain't walking. No. So they took the train and they went to watch their favorite cricket player play a really important game at the time. That's the priority. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. They met up with a friend of their dad's. The guy's name was John Fox, and he had an intellectual disability. And so they took advantage of this by telling them, like, hey, our mom went out of town. Our dad's at work. It was an emergency. We couldn't go. Like, can you help us? We need to pawn some stuff for money while we're alone, and you could stay at the house and help take care of us. Yeah, right? And so he's like, okay. And so he stays with them and he helps pawn household stuff to get them some money with, an adult, filling out the paperwork. And on July 13th, John tries to get a cash advance from what they call the cashier, which is like payroll at his dad's job, saying, with a letter from Robert now saying that Emily was sick. The mother, Emily, was sick with Bright's disease, which is like a kidney disease that went around at the time. And so that they needed £4 to be able to pay the really big doctor bill that they had coming up. Okay. And the cashier was, his name's Houston. He said that he would, but that they would have to bring a doctor's note, and then that he would give them the money. So Robert forges a little doctor's note and everything, and he brings it on July 15th, and he's like, okay, well, I'll bring by the money to your house and give it to your mom. Oh gosh. So that she can pay it. Yeah. Because Robert has previously done this before and managed to get £2 out of him previously. So he knows that this is a scheme already. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll give it to your mom. Yeah. So they're like, crap. And so he leaves. They're trying to figure out something else. But earlier on the 7th, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just a little like a week before. They've been having the time of their lives, having this man take care of them, pawning almost everything in their house. That's crazy. And so neighbors have started to wonder, like, what's going on? Where's their mom? Yeah. So they get a hold of the aunt. Not the dead one. No, just a aunt. They didn't say anyone. An aunt of the family, the aunt of the boys, who's her sister-in-law, who's also named Emily. Oh, so I'm just gonna say Aunt Emily and their mom, So, she shows up to the house the very next day that they had called. So it's the 8th of July. Okay. And there's nobody there. She waits another week, which I think is kind of weird because she didn't live far away. But she waits another week and she shows up at 6 p.m. and some guy opens the door that she has no idea who he is. And that's John Fox, the man, their dad's co-worker, really. And he tells Aunt Emily story that the boys have told him, because to his knowledge that's true. It's what happened. Yeah. And then he just closes the door, and a woman back then isn't gonna force her way in. And so
take him at his word, I guess.
So she's trying to figure out what she's going to do. And so she comes back on Wednesday the 17th. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, and there's no answer. But she is not leaving this time. She's super determined. So she waits around in town. She comes back again early in the afternoon. She comes to the door, she knocks, and she opens the door. So she's like done.
Unlocked.
I'm guessing most people probably didn't lock their doors
true.
a lot. I mean,
well,
Jack the Ripper, but still.
I was going to say Jack the Ripper.
But it wasn't super close to where they were at, but still. So she knocks. It's open because she lets herself in, and she sees John Fox and both of the boys there. They're playing cards, hanging out.
Just ignoring her.
And there's obviously a bad smell.
Oh, gosh.
She goes over to her sister's door, and it's locked. She tries to jiggle the handle. It's locked, and she's like, there's absolutely a smell. She hasn't started panicking yet because who thinks, she's going to be totally dead in there for like over a week. And so she leaves, and she is able to, she finds the landlord, because what I'm thinking, I think it's like a tenement unit. So it sounds like, like what's a duplex? So like your super lives there. You have a neighbor right next door. Everybody's connected because at this point, a neighbor has come next door, and her name is Mrs. Burridge because she's hearing stuff going on. So she has the landlord, and Mrs. Burridge is like hovering, looky-looing like people do. And so the landlord has given her the key, and Aunt Emily goes to the door. She opens the door, and she immediately sees a body covered in maggots, and a swarm of flies busts out. But nobody had really suspected too much because there were more flies in the freshly fertilized manure fields. So, there was like an influx of flies. But come on, we don't have refrigeration. It could have been like, our food went bad, and we're little. We didn't throw it away. So obviously, holy crap, there's a problem. Mrs. Burridge runs, and she gets her husband, and he goes and he gets the police, and the first person that shows up is Constable Robert. That sounds so fancy. Constable Robert Thwart. And he's able to show up at around 1:50 p.m. This takes a bit. Because she showed up early afternoon. I'm thinking that's like maybe noon.
Well, I think all the whole time between going
having
to
a
the
run
neighbor,
and find
getting
somebody.
the key, going back and
That's
forth,
very
and
true.
then trying to get the police. It's like it probably took an hour or so.
You're screaming down the dead body.
Yeah.
So, they started an investigation in the area, and one of the what they call a police surgeon, who is their forensic their forensics doctor. The police surgeon, his name is Alfred Kennedy. He noted immediately her head was the worstly decomposed, and I'm thinking because he bashed it and so that makes it extra sad because there's probably a lot of trauma to her head area, and so that was the part that was the most decomposed, but they obviously knew who it was. Because of people missing.
Well, and it's in her bed.
Exactly. Investigator George Gilbert is going around the room. The knife is right there, covered in blood. It's they don't even have to look far. They find a boy's bloody flannel shirt that's just been tossed there, and there is the blood covered kitchen knife that's still in the bed. And then he had also found a letter written by Robert to his dad. And this is the part that's interesting because there's kind of a misinformation. One of the things I read was him saying that he needed more money because mom had really hurt her hand. But then another letter I was in an article that I was reading said that he had written a letter saying that his mom accidentally killed herself.
What?
But that it didn't really seem like it implied that they needed him to come home to send money. It was really strange. But either way, he had made up some ridiculous convoluted lie for his dad that made no sense. Because he's 13. So during all this hullabaloo, little Nathaniel had jumped out the window and took off. But he's grabbed pretty quickly. But Robert and John Fox are arrested.
Because how did John not know being there?
I don't know. And so, they figured, everybody in the house is going.
You guys were all here with the dead body for a while.
So I'm sorry, but I did not see where John was taken. Nathaniel didn't get arrested, surprisingly, for being 12. But Robert was arrested and sent to Holloway Prison on July 18th, which is interesting because it's actually a women's facility because he was so young.
Oh,
it was like but it was interesting because it was a women's and also a young offenders, but he was the only boy that was there. And I think it's just because he was so little, they were like we don't just know where put him here. We're afraid. We don't know. So yeah, they put him there.
Yeah.
And during his time while he was there, he had said that he was hearing voices and things, and they were telling him to kill his mother.
Oh gosh.
And his physician had, did know and took note of the markings and everything and got his medical history, and had made notes about he had like when he would go into these headaches, like his eyes would like wander all over. So like it was a real situation with that. And the doctor actually did believe that he could have had like a manic episode and freaked out and killed his mom. So these are things that they're getting while he's in he's getting evaluated while he's in jail. And so but one of the things that the doctor thought was really interesting, as it's noted, is that he still is very childlike. So it's not like he's like this. Yeah, because he's, he's all into crime and stuff. So he's actually like excited about being part of a trial, even though it's his own. But then he's crying because of his kitty cat he misses and like his mandolin at home and stuff. So he's still like very childlike and struggling with his emotions.
Definitely
and guilt.
Has to be like the head in, they always say head injury.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean,
especially as like not even. Your brain hasn't even started outside of just barely keeping you alive. Yeah. And it's messed up.
Already messed up. Yeah.
And so it's a bummer. It really is sad.
Yeah. You can't it's not an excuse, but it is very real. That
it sure is.
Yeah. Mental illness. Unfortunately.
And it's really sad. Yeah. It's really, really sad. So September 9th, 1895, he has started his trial, and his family physician, Dr. John Joseph Griffith, so many Johns and Emilys, he testified on his behalf about the headaches and the eye movements, and that like there was no family history of mental illness except for mother's nervousness and hysteria. They thought all of them were crazy back then. So even he was basically like, but it's not that. So he truly believed that he was basically a homicidal maniac that had lucid moments, but that he really believed that he just broke. And so they took that, they took it into account because he was so young, and the jury really struggled with convicting him because he was so little. And so the judge, they were like, yeah, he's guilty. And the judge was like, okay, well, the thing is we can't hang him. So you need to go back and like figure something else out, because he can't tell them to say he's guilty by insanity, but that's what they had to. So then they went back, then they came back out, and they, guilty by their reason of insanity. And since he was too young to hang, they sentenced him to an indefinite stay at Broadmoor Hospital for the criminally insane. And John Fox and Nathaniel were both found not guilty. John was so mentally incapable that they were like, he was locked out. He was
just like, whatever.
So very simple, and they truly believed he didn't have anything to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah. And they found Nathaniel not guilty because he didn't do it.
He didn't do anything.
Unfortunately, you can talk about wanting to kill someone. You just can't do it.
Can't do it. Yeah.
So he was, and I'm like I had told you earlier, like I told everybody, just you. I have like in the sources, like the whole court trial. So it's really cool if you want to read it. Because it's like totally extra. But it's crazy to read it. And so what ended up happening from here, this is the part that I told you, it's like, it's all crazy, but this is crazy. And then I have like a thing I want to talk about. So Robert was the youngest inmate ever at Broadmoor, and he only served 17 years as a model citizen. He was released in 1912, and he was only 30 years old. He immigrated to Australia because his brother was there. His brother had joined the military. And so Robert wanted to be with him. And so he also joined the military, and he fought in World War One, and he received a Medal of Bravery for he went on rescue missions, and he was one of the stretcher bearers. So they would put the dead or completely mutilated, dying person on the stretcher, and he helped carry them out while being shot at. And so he had, finished his tour after that point. And after the war, he settled down and he became a music teacher for children. And he was actually really well liked in town. So weird. I know. He adopted a 9-year-old boy, and he was an amazing father. The boy had nothing. Nobody had anything but wonderful things to say about Robert. He ended up becoming a farmhand, and he worked that for a little while before. The way that they describe this, I don't exactly know what this is, but what I think it is he worked for a little while as a farm worker until he was able to save up enough money to get his own little patch, and he opened like a farmer's market.
Oh, okay.
And when World War II came around, he actually re-enlisted, but he was already in his 50s.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, he got through the whole process and everything, and then he was medically discharged, probably for his head injury.
Yeah.
And he was, the thing was, they were 50-year-olds fighting, but because of his head injury.
Probably that in combination with his age.
I'm sure. Yeah, they were like, you're too much of a risk, old pop. Yeah. Sorry. In 1949, May 7th, that's my dad's birthday. I was like, oh, hey. Robert died at age 67, having never married and never reoffending. Now, here's the thing.
That's crazy.
I know. So here's the thing. After reading a whole bunch and looking through different videos, like what was I going to use and stuff, some of the comments on YouTube were talking about, now here's the thing. Here's my hot topic, the point that I'm coming back around to. It's like, what if their mom did beat the holy ever living shit out of them all the time, and he was just tired of it? A lot of children get abused, and everyone thinks that they're not.
Yeah.
I know many people that have been abused, and everyone thought that those parents were amazing and wonderful, and they turned out to be intense abusers. Those people don't kill them.
Yeah.
But you just don't know. You don't know. You don't know. Could he really have just snapped? But he obviously planned it, and they knew that he had. Yeah. He planned something. Did he intend to kill his mother with that knife or somebody else? And it just happened to be his mom. Or was he just a boy who
wanted a cool knife?
Oh, cool. Exactly.
Yeah.
And loved his little brother and wanted to protect him. And so you don't know.
The mom may have beat the little brother because she couldn't beat him because of his head.
Maybe. See, so and the thing is too, the doctor even said she suffered from nervousness and hysteria, but she wasn't mentally ill. They thought all of us were crazy.
Yeah.
You'd have PMS, you'd have your period, you were crazy.
Yeah.
And your husband could put you in an asylum for that.
Yeah.
So the reality is she could have been completely mentally unstable.
And the husband wouldn't know because he's barely there.
He was never around.
So it's just
I'm not excusing them murdering her.
No.
It's like Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She's getting released, and and you don't know. That doesn't excuse it in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. But very rarely can psychos, as you know, hold off those kinds of things and never commit a crime ever, not even anything. And he was like a little thief as a kid too, so he didn't even steal money.
And the fact that he's very childlike, I'm sure he's not thinking about like the consequences of like the mom being dead, right? And him doing that man,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was not expecting.
Yeah, I'm not like he's amazing. I'm just like what?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was like one thing after another. I'm like, what?
And I totally right now my brain is like, sorry, I don't know what happened to the dad.
I know. I was going to ask.
None of the articles. I will update everybody. I will look now because none of the articles I read said anything about what happened to their dad, Robert Sr.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
he didn't come back probably.
Fucking like, kids. Then what happened to the son, the youngest?
Well, Nathaniel just moved on with his life. He left. That's why I said he immigrated to Australia and joined the military.
But he was still a little boy.
Yeah, he probably went to go live with Aunt Emily.
Oh, yeah.
Because his dad was gone too much.
Yeah.
Then without a wife, there's probably no way. Yeah, they just moved on.
Wow.
Weird. I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the kid that he adopted, said he was a great dad. He was awesome. And he never remarried, nothing. He just lived his life by himself.
Wow.
He's like, this marriage. He's like, look how my parents' marriage went.
Reoffending, and then I guess using his life for good in the war. But wow.
His penance.
Yeah. Wow.
Weird.
Maybe he did get the help he needed because you said it was for it was a hospital that he went to.
Yeah, he
right?
went to a
so maybe
and it wasn't, I mean, a lot of those places weren't amazing, but it was the turn of the century. They were getting better. They were learning more. Unfortunately, people did lobotomies and shit like that coming up soon after that.
I'm just wondering what happened to him in there.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
He was perfect. Like, he was literally never supposed to get out. So obviously,
he was good enough that they're like, why is he even here? Kind of thing, probably.
Yeah.
Like, just wow.
Yep.
Wow, that was good.
Weird, right?
Yeah, that was really weird. Lots of twists and turns. Not what I expected at all. Wow. Now I'm going to be thinking about that for a while because now I'm like, I have all my theories and.
Yeah.
Wow. That's all I can say.
Sorry.
Good.
One more. The other thing I had as a thought, too, is like, they never showed up to school. Was it because they had bruises and marks and injuries and their mom was like, you can't go to school because people are going to tell? And so they were just marked as truant and bad kids.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe she wasn't feeding them and they had to steal money. They didn't say what they used the money for when they would take it.
Yeah.
So you really
it really could have been an abusive situation, but we don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're all passed away now.
Yeah, so. Okay. Well,
think about it forever.
Yeah, now I am. So with that, stay crafty.
And not cry me.
Bye.